for this. So again, I will take the negative case of rejection. So let me copy this, Control C, Control V. I'll change the name as based on pattern. Okay, based on pattern. And now we are going to change this. We don't set it using the object input filter method. But okay, the way that we do is like this. So I will remove this part. Okay, and then I will call object input filter. It's here, object input filter dot config. So we are going to use config, and then we'll create a filter here using this config. And here I will use the complete package name and proceed it with not. So first of all, let me check the complete package name for this class. Just go to marketer with filters, and I will copy this. Okay, and go back here, and then inside this quotes, I will type this, and now the class name itself, marketer with filters, and I will put it here. Let me make some space here so that it's visible. Okay. So we are just creating this filter, and this is the pattern. And right now, as you can see that I've got a semicolon here. We can add some more classes here. For example, java.length.string or any other Java Kojo class which we want to allow or not allow. When I don't use any exclamation mark here, it means that this filter allows this class only. But for our rejection case, let me create an exclamation mark here, which means that if the class is this, then it should reject it. So we have to mark this and to mark it as rejected. And then once we have this, let me hit Control Alt V, and this is our filter, right? So this filter we have to set, and I will again make it simpler by this. Okay, so we got this object input filter now based on config, and then we have created that whenever this class is having this complete name with package with marketer with filters, it should reject it by marking it as not as exclamation mark. And we also got this semicolon, which means that we can also include, say, java.lang.string and all after this. Okay, and now let's set this filter into our object input stream reference, which is set object input filter and the filter created above. Okay, Control Alt L. Okay, so this we have created a filter using the pattern, and we expect that it should be having the same rejection as before with invalid class exception and the exception message as filter status rejected. Now let's run this test case again based on pattern. So it worked well as well. So guys, we have covered a lot of test cases here, and a lot of theories has been also covered for this particular chapter. Let's have a final revision before we close out this chapter. So we have got this market data with filters test, right? Where we are going to use the filters based on object input filter functional interface, which was introduced in Java 9 in September 2017. And to test this, we have got two ways we can test it. So one way was to custom filters by implementing this check input and filter info method of object input filter interface. And we had got 5 methods which we can check on. So we covered serial class and stream bytes, these 2 methods using these 2 test cases. And we can mark this as whether we have a check and we can allow it or reject it. And similarly, we did it for the allowing first and rejecting first and second. And we expected that if it's rejected, then it should throw an invalid class exception when we call the readObject method on ObjectInputStream. And the exception message is filter status rejected. And similarly, we did it for stream of bytes for rejected case. If the stream of bytes was greater than a particular number, then in that case, it should be rejected. Ideally, I mean, in production code, I mean, if you're doing this, then we can create this very huge number, not very huge number, but a reasonable number, say 500 or 600 something. And if it has been hacked or it has been attacked by a hacker, which means that it has got a huge number of bytes, much more than 500, 600, whatever you expect, then in that case, it should be rejected. And finally, the second case where we checked this was the pattern. Based on the pattern, we can precede any class with not or for rejection. And if we don't precede it, then it should be accepted. And this is what we tested again when we actually created a not exclamation mark. And that's why this Java Pojo was rejected for deserialization, throwing the same exception as before. So guys, this was all about chapter 21 using object input filter interface. In the next chapter, we will cover serialization proxy pattern, which is another way to how to avoid all this type of deserialization attacks that we already covered, chapter 21. But this proxy pattern will help us to even design our classes in such a way that we are not too much vulnerable for all this type of attacks. And after that, we'll end this tutorial series with 13 exercises and solutions. So stay tuned and look out for my next video on chapter 22.